Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Today's Monday, May 2nd, 2022. It's 2 o'clock. This is the meeting of the Community Services and Public Safety Committee. I'm chairing that committee. Members are Logan Cunningham, who is the vice chair and on the air, Gerald Dawson, York Cover, and Alice Howard. I see Alice, and I see York. Is Gerald on the air?
Yeah, he's just turning his computer on.
No, Mr. Dawson's in chambers.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm
invisible.
looking at you.
I'm invisible today.
You are.
Councilmember Dawson is actually in chambers.
Of course he is. I see him. Okay. So I'll call this meeting to order and ask you all to stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Go to item number 3 and indicate the public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. May I have a motion for item number 4 to approve the agenda for this meeting?
I make a motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on approval of the agenda? Hearing none, I will move this for approval, absent any objections. Seeing no objections, the agenda is approved. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2022?
I make a motion to approve the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any change to any of the minutes? Hearing none, I will pass this motion without objection. Are there any objections? No objection. Item number 6, citizen comments. Sarah, do we have any citizen comments on email or in person?
No, sir, we do not. General Mitchell was going to log on to give a comment. He is not on yet. If he does end up getting on the call, I will let you know.
Yeah, if he does, just let him know that we can come back to that at the end. I don't expect we're going to be having a very lengthy session. All right, moving on to item number 7 is an update on the Hunting Island State Park by Brandon Goff, the park manager. Colonel Foote, will you be introducing him?
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, council. Today I wanted to bring with us Brandon Goff, who's the park manager out at Hunting Island. I'm pleased to bring him up for an update of how things are going out at Hunting Island. Brandon has been with the department for what, 17 years? 17 years, and he's made it around to a lot of the parks in the state of South Carolina. And now he's landed at the best one, Hunting Island. So we're very excited to have him here. I think all of us can appreciate what Hunting Island brings to Beaufort County and to our citizens here. It certainly brings back a lot of fond memories when I was younger and started going out there when I was here in the early 80s.
Bill, can I stop you just for a second? I'm sorry. There's a lot of feedback here and a lot of ringing noises taking place, so it's difficult to keep with you.
I think it's Alice's mic is on.
No, mine is off, and my speaker's off.
Got it.
What did you hit? This?
Yes, sir.
This?
There you go. That's it.
Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Sorry, Alice. I just didn't see the red mic. My bad.
Okay.
We good?
Yes.
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. Well, again, I wanted to introduce
Oh, yeah, it
Brandon
wasn't me.
Goff, the park manager for Hunting Island, because I think
It was
that Hunting Island plays
Councilmember-
such an
it was
important role to
Councilmember, it just
Beaufort
didn't.
County and our citizens,
She's not me.
that I thought it was important.
Hold on, Phil, and I'll try and get everyone who's not talking to mute their microphone so we don't get that background chatter.
Alice is unmuted.
All right, Phil, third time is usually golden.
Okay. We're gonna give it another try. All right. So without any further ado, I'll quit talking and maybe I'll quit verberating. I will bring Brandon Goff up, allow him to give you an update, and our citizens that are watching an update on Hunting Island and all the great things that are happening out at Hunting Island. I'm sure everybody will be pleased to hear about a lot of the new work that has taken place out there, that's going to take place out there. So, Brandon, I'll allow you to take it over from here, sir, and thank you for coming.
When he logged in.
All right.
Hey, Brandon, before you start talking, just stand by a minute. I'm going to try one more time to get people who are not speaking to mute their microphones.
Sure.
And that would apply to everybody. I don't know who it is that's whispering in the background, but you're carrying it forward with your voice. Hey, Brandon, we're going to tape this presentation, and we're going to make it available for council members who are not in attendance today, and for the general public to go into our archives if they've missed the meeting today, so they can get your update on Hunting Island State Park. Does that be all right?
That sounds great.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. Appreciate that.
Bet. Well, I appreciate you guys having me out today. Philip for reaching out and kind of introducing me around. Just to give you some background on me, I started with the Park Service 17 years ago, and I've had an opportunity to live in some fantastic places from the mountains to the coast. Spent a large portion of my career on Edisto Beach and was born and raised on the coast of South Carolina, just outside of Myrtle Beach in Conway. So I do have a vested interest in the state of South Carolina and the coast in particular. I arrived to Hunting Island in April of last year. And to be quite frank, it was running full steam ahead, so I just kind of held on for the ride for a bit. And part of that has been so many projects that have kicked off over the course of the past year. If you've been out to Hunting Island over the past couple of months, I'm sure you've noticed the road work, the paving that's happening out there. We were fortunate enough to open the pier, which had been closed for many years since Hurricane Matthew. So I'd like to kind of run down what we're experiencing at the park from a visitation standpoint, what we're seeing from a financial standpoint, not to get too deep into the woods, but to kind of show our visitation and the popularity of the park and how I really think that the successes of Beaufort County and the successes of Hunting Island are one and the same. I think that we're in this together, and there couldn't be a better relationship, for me kind of stepping in and having some time to get to know everybody and establish my family in the Beaufort community is, it's exciting. There's going to be some really good things, and I'm excited to be a part of this. So what we'll do is I'll dive into some projects. Please feel free if anyone has any questions as I'm going through. You can interrupt me, it's fine. We'll kick off with the campground at Hunting Island. So the paving in the campground is complete. We are working on road shoulder buildup right now. There are some significant drop-offs after the paving that went in. We tried to build the road up to an elevation so that some of the tidal flooding that we experienced on the king tides as well as heavy rain events. And part of that is we have to do road shoulder buildup. So we hope to have that done this week. Fingers crossed. Don't hold me to it. But we'll do our best. We've got 125 campsites out there, and we average about 89% occupancy, so it's a busy campground. Of course, for those of you that were fortunate enough to know Hunting Island and the campground, pre-Matthew, we lost many campsites. And that just due to the dynamic nature of where that campground is at and really, the layout of how the island is situated, the area that we can grow or rebuild with infrastructure and utilities to build another campground is limited. So what we're trying to do is take the 125 campsites that we have and offer the best possible experience we can. While we understand that we're not able to accommodate as many, our job now is with fewer sites, we should be able to provide a better service, and that's what we're striving to do. We continue to move forward with our pricing structure for overnight accommodations through a system of dynamic pricing. It's something that's been established through overnight accommodations, in particular the hotel industry, for many, many years. And this structure is set up to basically rise and fall, give and take with season, with demand, with occupancy rates. And what that allows us to do is find a sustainable way that we can, accommodate all of the campers that are coming in while also taking care of our financial obligations. As I'm sure you've all seen, COVID, as we navigated that insanity, one of the places that folks wanted to flock to was green space. Parks were busier than ever. The staff at the park, from operational, administrative to our maintenance division and hosts and volunteers, were all feeling the brunt of that, and really took that time to kind of evaluate what we were doing and how we were doing it. And as we kind of processed through COVID and kind of got to the other side of that, and we find ourselves here today, that the demand, the popularity, we are still kind of riding on that plateau now of increased visitation. So financially, our numbers are up. Last year was a record year for revenue in the history of the park. And this year it looks very good as well. And I think that's a testament to, Beaufort County, our marketing efforts, but also, more folks are coming out and they're coming back, right? They come out and they experience Hunting Island and they want to come back and take their friends out. And that's kind of makes us feel better about what we're doing. That maybe we're not messing it up. Maybe we're doing it right. Some of the concerns that we have with the campground in particular, we mentioned mosquito control, so we're working with Beaufort County right now, obviously, to try and kind of figure out how we can, monitor that and quantify our efforts there and see, is the juice worth the squeeze, and where we can kind of focus our efforts. And I'm really excited and optimistic about where that's going to go. And I truly feel like, with the campground generating roughly 40% of, the overall revenue that comes into the park, that's an area where if we get that right and we're able to kind of make that experience better, that we'll continue to see the benefits from that, both from a visitor experience standpoint as well as from an economic standpoint. With the paving process, we have added a new lane into the campground, which should help mitigate some of that traffic backup on those heavy check-in, check-out days. We're also, enforcing our check-in and check-out times to give us time to, get in and clean those campsites and evaluate that campground and make sure we address things on the front side. And we're proactively managing the campground as opposed to waiting for our clients to call us and say we have an issue. So we're taking advantage of that 2-hour window that's built into the rules and regulations within state parks. That gives us time to address those issues. So now when we do the check-in with the new lane, we have more capacity, more stacking capacity. And it's our hope that will, minimize traffic backup on 21 from the campground perspective. We'll get into the day use side here in a bit. So just to jump over really quick to the Lighthouse. I know that's been a point it's on a lot of folks' radar, and it certainly is on our radar. I have a meeting this week to discuss moving forward with that project. It's going to be an extended closure. The reason that we knew that a closure was coming with the Lighthouse, that facility being as old as it is, located right on the ocean, much of it is made out of cast iron. So there were some safety issues, some safety concerns. And as we were conducting our monthly inspections, we identified some significant issues that had just kind of arisen. we brought our engineers down. We were able to do an evaluation of that facility and decide that it was in the best interest for safety of both the staff and the public for us to close that off. So not only is it closed off to public access, it's also closed off to staff access. There are only 3 individuals on Hunting Island that have the information or the key to get into that facility because we don't want anyone to be in a position where they could be injured by some of the things that are going on there. So it's a little sooner. We were thinking it was going to be fall or winter by the time that the closure went into place. But I'm always wanting to err on the side of caution. And, you know, my rule of thumb is, you know, if I don't want my family to go in there, if I don't feel good about that, I certainly don't want anyone else doing that. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of exciting news moving forward on that. Right now, engineers are discussing that. So folks with big degrees and long letters after their name are figuring that out, and I will be happy to keep you abreast of that as it moves forward. Of course, beach renourishment is completed. When I was over at Edisto, there was a saying that, you know, a healthy beach is a wealthy beach. And it is so incredible to go out on the beach of Hunting Island right now and to, you know, to see all the families and the folks that are out there and interacting and having a good time and being able to enjoy the beach and actually have a beach there for them to enjoy. So as of now, you know, the response to beach renourishment has been incredible. We are continuing with our resource management efforts as well as some of the obligations that we had that were attached to that program, to that beach renourishment project, such as compaction monitoring. I think we're just doing our follow-up for the season. Should be scheduled any day now, as well as the piping plovers and the red knots. We continue to work through that with Audubon and with DNR. But it really, I mean, it's something to see when you go out and you look at the beach at Hunting Island. It's a different beach, and I validate that. But it's a very different island as well. It's one of the most dynamic places that I've ever had the opportunity to work at, but really spend a significant amount of time on. So when you work in it every day and you see the sand shift and the salt pruning and how all of that happens, it kind of gives you perspective as to, you know, where you fit and how much the island has changed, the beach has changed just since my first visit here was 17 years ago when I first started with the Park Service. And, you know, when I first came here in April of last year, I had to stand back for a minute and figure out where I was at, which is how much that has changed. So we're doing our best from beach renourishment, from all of our projects, to try and figure out not how to make Hunting Island something that it wasn't, but how to really evaluate, you know, what we have with the island right now and how we can move forward sustainably, how we can balance that. And I think beach renourishment gives us a good opportunity to kind of use that as our acid test to say, okay, this is what happens when we bring all of these people together and we try to move forward with compromise. What can we learn? What can we take from that? And how can we, you know, move forward with other projects and do those better? So that's our hope, and I think that's kind of a secondary benefit to the beach renourishment, not only the experience that, you know, the visitors have now, but our ability to kind of learn from that. So, and with a big beach, now comes an exacerbated problem with parking. If you've been on Sea Island Parkway in the summertime, in particular on a Saturday or Sunday, it's not uncommon for traffic to back up both ways, both going, you know, back to Beaufort as well as heading back towards Fripp. It's been a challenge that my predecessors have faced. This is not new. It really is just getting worse. As more folks are moving down, we're going to really have to think outside the box. We're going to have to evaluate how best we can. That's a problem that we can look at, and what can we do to help kind of minimize the impacts of this backup. So I've been fortunate enough to communicate with Beaufort County. Again, that relationship is incredible, and truly we could not be as successful as we are without that relationship. It's integral to the growth of the park, and certainly appreciate the involvement with Beaufort County Sheriff's Office and EMS and all of those you know, first responders that come out and kind of help us on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So we're tossing around some ideas now. going to try to lean to, other areas that, perhaps have faced those capacity issues and faced those traffic control issues and see what we can learn from that. And not try to kind of throw a shot at the dark here or knee jerk it. Really, really dig down and figure out how best we can do that. With the road paving, there's a couple of things that I should probably just kind of put out there on the table. One is we have a significant drop off. So now after the road paving has happened, they've kind of milled that road up. So there's going to be some soft soil on the side of the road. So parking on the side of Sea Island Parkway along the park is going to be limited. We want to allow people to stage up on Highway 21 or on Sea Island Parkway on both ways. So that's going to be different this year. Part two is going to be the pier parking lot. The pier has not been opened since Hurricane Matthew. We are busier than we have ever been. And with Little Hunting Island now kind of being established and folks hearing about that, we're running into parking capacity issues at the pier on your average Wednesday. So I foresee that this is going to be a problem that we're going to have to address sooner than later. And I'm taking kind of the approach of let's evaluate as it happens and then see how best we can kind of address that from there.
I had a question.
Sure.
I don't remember when, it was before the pandemic, they tried having a bus take people out. Are you going to try that again? Or?
Well, I think that part of that was, we were really evaluating everything. Now I think the significant portion of where we're at in the discussion is from a utilities standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, is that, we lost several bathrooms, restroom facilities due to the storms and erosion that have not been replaced. And, we do have portalets that are stationed along the South Beach section of the island. And in my view, as long as we have to rely on portalets consistently, we're probably not prepared to accommodate more folks, because we want to, as stewards of the Park Service, we want to make sure that we're giving 100% of our customer service 100% of the time, and not, minimizing that or kind of diluting that by trying to get more folks in and offering 50% of our true value of what we can offer. So as of now, it's on the table. We just kind of have to figure out how we're going to accommodate those folks. So we'll move forward from that. Just some common statistics really quickly. The number has been tossed around for years that Hunting Island sees about 1 million people per year. I really tried to get some hard numbers on that this year and get a solid number. And the challenge to that is passports. So the South Carolina Park Service offers passports. And it will allow anybody in your vehicle into the park as many times as you want to come. All right. So tracking visitors through that is difficult. However, in accounting for daily admission passes, as well as the portion of our passport sales and then our overnight accommodations, it's true. We do see about 1 million people a year. So I'm happy to say that we were right where we needed to be with that assumption, and also to say that number is growing every year. So keep that in mind. Getting busier and busier. Number of campers and day use visitors. We see about 550,000 campers annually. And again, that's in 125 campsites. And we do have 3 primitive sites that are not incredibly busy, but that does contribute to that number. So from an event standpoint moving forward, we are planning to have a Pledge of the Pink run in October. Of course, we do our annual Pelican Plunge with Friends of Hunting Island, an incredible organization we're fortunate enough to have in our corner and work together closely with them, and we'll continue to move forward with that. They've got some incredible initiatives on their website and on their Facebook page. I encourage you to go take a peek at that, because they're doing some really cool things there. And it changes. They keep me on my toes. It changes all the time, and they are certainly active and engaged, and I really appreciate them. So some policy updates. There will be a bit of a change in how we work with an enforcement of rules and regulations throughout the park. We're communicating with Beaufort County right now to kind of communicate our concerns and see how best we may be able to kind of navigate those waters. And again, certainly appreciate any and all advice and the professional experience from Beaufort County on that side to kind of help guide us down that path so we can get there as best as we can. We do have an emergency action plan in place. So if I could share that with anyone, if there are things that need to be added with that, I do have an SOP and an EOP that's been established. It was refreshed in 2021. And it does detail the entire process for pre-storm, post-storm, and I'm happy to share that if council would like. So, and I've got some emergency contact information that I've shared with the county. I'd be happy to share with anyone that had any questions with that as well. Feel free to reach out to us. We feel like we can give you guys a call anytime, and certainly appreciate that and want to offer that out to you as well. Happy to talk with you anytime.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to ask the Public Information Officer to prepare a notice to be sent to all of our employees to inform them of the video of your presentation, and also ask him to send it to the media to inform anyone who is on our notification list that the video will be in the archive and they can have access to it at their leisure. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Goff, before he retires? Before he leaves?
Sure.
Yes, Brandon, on the Lighthouse.
Yes.
When we visited with a group of individuals, one of our individuals physically could not climb all the stairs. What we did is we took a video, showing them the inside, looking up, and then from the top looking out. Is there something like that could give people a virtual experience while it's closed?
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I would be remiss if I did not bring that up, is that we actually, we do have a virtual reality experience for the Lighthouse at the park. The Friends of Hunting Island were kind enough to build a small Lighthouse replica within the visitor center. And that offers an ADA accessible, even wheelchair, you can roll in, panoramic view of a virtual hike to the top of the Lighthouse. It's an incredible experience.
Great.
We also offer the headset versions, the ones that you see every day on YouTube, the funny ones. We've got those as well. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I'll get in trouble if I didn't say something about that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that's one. If you didn't mention, the Friends would be upset with you on that and stuff.
Agreed.
It is there.
And the county helped fund it.
We did.
We did.
You and Ms. Howard talked about parking.
Yes.
That was a concern of mine, accommodation. But you are not at a point now. You accommodate more people, so you don't even worry about the parking right now. But your numbers are still up, so that's a good sign that people are still visiting the park, and it's one of the most popular places. And they had a study on the parks, the beaches, and Hunting Island was not at the top of the list and stuff. But I was wondering why. But that's okay. We probably don't want too many folks out there now anyway. I did have a chance to plant one or two seedlings at the park during the renourishment.
Oh, really?
Last summer, I think Senator Kimson was there, and Representative Rivers and Eric,
Shannon.
Shannon Erickson, were there and stuff. So I was there. Paul had your district. I do have your district now. So I probably just need to get my free pass from you to visit and stuff. But tell me, where is the little Hunting Island? My first time I ever heard Little Hunting Island.
Sure. So Little Hunting Island is the term that we've kind of coined for the southernmost end of the lagoon.
Okay.
So during Hurricane Matthew, when the lagoon breached, it minimized the amount of flow that was coming down toward the pier. So if you walk out onto the pier, you go about halfway out and you look to your left, you see the beach right there, and then you see a footbridge. So that footbridge is actually the only access that gets onto Little Hunting Island.
Okay, I've been there. So that's called Little Hunting Island.
It is, and so that area is 100% untouched. So there are, quite honestly, it's the most hazardous area on the park that we have. Oyster shells, lots and lots of driftwood, pitfalls, At high tide, most of it is underwater, and so you don't see it. Lots of cuts and scrapes, responses for issues out there. It's a concern because it is a beautiful area. You know, it's raw, and you get a visceral experience when you go out there. But how can we manage that? You know, how do we best interpret that? How do we, let the public know about the issues that are there? Compounded with the fact that it is a beach access that has a separate kind of parking right at the pier. While it's a half-mile walk to the pier or to the beach, Little Hunting Island, from that parking area, we did notice an influx of visitation down there this year. So based on the trends, I foresee that's going to be an issue, and how we kind of address that. We do have another access point to Little Hunting Island. So one thing that we are considering is the trail that moves to Little Hunting Island would shift over into the park itself, eliminate the trail coming kind of from that nature center area and hiking a half-mile in and come down via the lagoon into Little Hunting Island. So we're tossing some ideas around right now, but again, before we assume that we've got this thing figured out, I'd like to kind of sit back and
Since you've been there for 17 years, someone told me at some point in time, as the ocean current, because of the ocean current, the dune is being shifted from the north to the south. You seen that?
Yeah, so I've actually got a pretty interesting report. Coastal Science and Engineering, who has kind of led the beach renourishment project, some of their preliminary studies are about mapping the shoreline and mapping to see where that sand is shifting to. And so they kind of delineate the park into sections based on the erosive nature of each section. And it goes all the way from basically Highway 21 all the way up to Egg Bank. And you see those windows of the scalloping action that they're mentioning, where you kind of have the sand that's pulling and shifting to here. Interesting side of that is that, and speaking with Stephen Tranum, he's a great guy, works with Coastal Science and Engineering, known him for years, and really, kind of top class when it comes to understanding the dynamics of sand shifting and ocean currents, is that for years we can experience sand pulling from one area and moving to another, and then it shifts and it changes. And so where we had been losing sand, we'll begin to accrete sand. And it's all part of what's happening at Egg Bank, what's happening up at for that matter, at DeVoe Bank, what's happening at Edisto, and how that current is shifting. So I see what's been established of those erosive points. If you stand down the beach and look at it from kind of a big picture, you can see the scallops, and I do see those, in particular towards South Beach, where we kind of stopped the nourishment. You can see on a pretty big tide, pretty decent high tide, that the tide is coming up to the dune line. And then, you go a portion up and you won't see that. You'll have plenty of beach. So I think it's a product of the dynamics. I'm not seeing anything right now that's surprising me. I think it's pretty much what we anticipated was going to happen. South Beach and along the lagoon, the area that was not touched by beach renourishment, that's going to be a case study and pretty interesting to see because, it's going.
How was Beach Sweep last weekend? Was it clean or dirty or in between?
Really a good thing that we're experiencing is in one of the last beach sweeps that we did, we actually didn't have a lot of trash, so we kind of circled back and said, where can we go? So we actually did a trail sweep.
Okay.
We're trying to be more present on the beach this year. We're making a concerted effort to, require rangers to be out there on a recurring basis, not just, when we're called out there, but really look at our entire operation. I'm hoping that that's going to kind of help with the amount of litter that we're seeing there. So fingers crossed.
Good. That's all I have. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anything further? Okay.
Mr.
Thanks again,
Redmond
Brandon.
wants to make a comment.
Just one comment,
Sorry?
Larry. My understanding, although even in the shorter terms, it can do the opposite, that the long term over the coast, that the islands generally erode at the north end and accrete at the south end. That's what I've heard over time.
I'm not privy to that. That may very well be accurate. I couldn't speak to that. It's, it's from what I see and at a park ranger kind of level.
Yeah.
That may be the case.
That's been true of Hilton Head, I think, over the recorded history.
Right.
But it does do the opposite from time to time.
They're different. That's all.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm very fortunate, again, as I said, to have lived and seen some incredible places that we have in the state of South Carolina. And the folks in this area are so fortunate to have Hunting Island and be able to experience a place like that is so dynamic and changes so quickly. It really is special. I'm kind of proud to be here and honored, really. It's a super special place.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, thank you again. I appreciate you guys having me. Feel free to reach out anytime and come by and see us at the beach. Get sand between your toes, but just brush it off before you leave. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brandon. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to number 8. We've been asked to consider recommendation of approval to apply for a grant for medication-assisted treatment, prescription drug, and opioid addiction. The grant is up to $750,000 a year for 5 years with no matching funds. Audra?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. Like you stated, the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Department is seeking approval to apply for federal grant RFP 2022 Medication-Assisted Treatment, Prescription Drug, and Opioid Addiction. This is a 5-year grant with no matching funds required. The purpose of this program is to provide resources to help expand and/or enhance access to medications for opioid use disorders. And I have asked Steve to come in case you would have any further questions in regards to this grant.
Is this for a prescription medication that will be provided to people with an opioid addiction and not methadone or anything like that? Is it a different kind of prescription?
Sir, I will have Steve answer that question for you.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hi there. I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thanks. Did you hear that question?
I heard part of it. I'm not wearing my hearing aids today. So if I filled in some words, which is
I just asked whether this was prescription assisted maintenance program, something like methadone, or is it a new drug we don't know anything about yet?
So partially. So one of the things that's occurring right now is that we do have benefit of the state opioid response having medications available. Those funds are, the current funding cycle ends at the end of September, and they don't know whether that's going to get renewed. We have a number of patients that are on medication-assisted treatment, primarily buprenorphine, no methadone, but the menu of services could expand to other things like Sublocade, other sorts of medications for opiate use disorders. Vivitrol is one that's also an attractive option. Dr. Faith Polke and I have been talking about expanding that menu of options. We're already contracted to do that if we get into that. And this 5-year grant would enable us to continue medication-assisted treatment that we're already providing to citizens of the county, and possibly, if the state does not get a renewal and we get funded, we would have a funding source for the next 5 years.
Is this a renewal effort? Are we already receiving funding, or is this a new request?
We don't, not directly. State DEOTUS, the single state authority, they have a federal grant. And so the patients that we have that are on medication-assisted treatment, basically we broker the service with somebody locally and they reimburse us.
And is the program working?
The program is working. The other thing to mention, to go beyond your question, is that we also want to try to stop getting people just to come to the brick and mortar places. People would rather have us have services in the community and other places where they interface. So one of the things that we also want to do in this particular grant is we want to put peer recovery support specialists in the emergency department, in the solicitor's multidisciplinary drug court, and also in our own detention center, in addition to counseling staff to help us to be able to do, more smooth transitions into the community where services have actually started in the jail. And when I say services, I'm not talking about medication. I'm talking about simply we might tee it up in the jail and then refer them to community providers and us at the back of that office.
Okay, great. Anybody have any further questions for Steve or Audra?
I just have not really a question, but once you get into the program and you're in the program now, and if you get the federal funding, could you just keep us apprised of where things are?
Certainly be happy to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Give us an update on how things are and how, and if it's working, if it's not working, so that, we can know how.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to admit that it doesn't necessarily work for everyone.
Sure.
One of the things that we're also hoping to do with this is increase our supply of Narcan funding to also provide for folks who have overdosed as a first aid, if you will, out in the community. So our goal is saving lives that don't necessarily come to our office, but also, yes, we're hoping to get a lot more people on the road to recovery through opioid assistant medications, but also traditional treatments for those that don't want those medications, because there are those folks too. So this would enable us to make connections out in the community, whether they want medication or not, but we can certainly take a look at the outcomes with or without medication.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can we grant this, can we give this approval, or does this have to go to full council for approval?
Has to go to full council for approval, so the recommendation will be for this committee to authorize it to be moved forward for county council approval.
And then I'll be seeking a motion in the absence of any further questions to recommend approval that this matter be forwarded to a full council for their consideration.
I'll move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this motion will be approved without objection. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the matter is approved. Thank you very much, Audra and Steve. Appreciate your time. Going to number 8, I see that Mr. Atkinson has anticipated me. We're going to be dealing with, item 9. We've been asked to recommend approval of a resolution to name the Lind Brown Recreation Center outdoor pool in honor of Mr. ALVIN Settles. Okay, Chuck, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. It is my pleasure to present a resolution to name the Lind Brown Recreation Center's outdoor pool in honor of Mr. ALVIN Settles. Mr. Settles, a native of Beaufort County, a native of South Carolina, spent his entire adult life investing in Beaufort County's most valuable resource, our children. He started Beaufort County's first publicly available swim lesson program from scratch in 1981. He taught swimming lessons on the Marine Corps Air Station for 32 years and at Beaufort County's Lind Brown Center, or a lot of us know it as the Green Street Gym, for 30 years. In May of 2015, he was recognized for his service to our community by the South Carolina House of Representatives via a resolution sponsored by Kenneth Hodges, a state representative, and Mr. Settles' pastor. And the resolution read, whereas many of Mr. Settles' students who never would have had exposure to swimming or the opportunity to learn how to swim have excelled, some of them even becoming lifeguards. In June of 2015, the Beaufort City Council proclaimed June 23rd of that year as ALVIN Settles Day in honor of his many years of service to our community. Staff and the Parks and Rec Board believe it is fitting to recognize Mr. Settles and his years of dedication and service, and that he provided to the citizens of Beaufort County. If this is approved today, we will forward it to full council next Monday, May 9th.
Okay, Chuck, in the agenda meeting, we had an issue that we still have to resolve that probably should be mentioned as to the whether an honorific can be bestowed so soon after someone's passing. Can you comment on that?
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to. So it is my understanding that there is a county council rule that in order for a facility to be named after someone, they have to be deceased for 10 years. It's also my understanding that over the years, there have been exceptions to that rule. Mr. Settles passed away April of 2021, and in May of 2021, the Parks and Rec Board brought it forward and asked if we could ask for an exception to that rule. We have been working on that for a year now. The Friends of Lind Brown brought this back up in January of this year, and Mr. Glover was involved in that conversation. And so we have put this resolution together and brought it forward. for your consideration.
Okay, thanks. I just want to be sure when we send that forward, if we send that forward, that we have a complete presentation to make to everyone, so they're all fully informed on the fact that we'll be asking for an exception. Is there any questions for Mr. Atkinson while he's at the podium?
Mr.
Okay,
Glover,
hearing.
Mr. Glover
Sorry.
has a question.
No, I don't have a question. I want to make a motion that we recommend to full council the naming of that swimming pool, ALVIN Settles Swimming Pool, without any objections. So I put that on the table, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry.
before we do that, I'm not too sure whether General Mitchell is online. He did have a doctor appointment, but he said if he could, he would be online. General Mitchell has been very active in this endeavor and has brought it forward to me, and forwarded it to Mr. Atkinson. And so he's been sort of the arm behind this, and I thought it was a great honor to do this. But at the same time, knowing Mr. Settles myself, and he has been a trainer for my grandkids, and I think Mr. Somerville also talked about Mr. Settles as actually training all of his kids in swimming. And so it could not be a better honor than to bestow this upon a gentleman, a real true gentleman, as the Irish would call him. He's a good man, and I think it's an honor to be a part of this. I can tell you that his wife is very thrilled that this is being done and being in his honor. And so if this goes forward, Mr. General Mitchell will assure you that she will be here doing the presentation. So that's my only comment. And I did that on behalf of General Mitchell. Thank you.
Is General Mitchell available or unavailable at the moment?
He's not.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of a resolution be sent to the full council to name the Lynn Brown Recreation Center outdoor pool in honor of Mr. ALVIN Settles. That will pass absent any objections. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the matter passes, and the recommendation for approval of the resolution shall go to the full council. Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Is there anything further from any members of the committee or anyone on council who wish to add anything to this session of the Community Services and Public Safety Committee?
You're on mute, Larry. You're still on mute.
Yeah, things have gone a little haywire here in my computer. Okay, hearing no matters needing further discussion, the Community Services and Public Safety Committee meeting of May 2nd is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Executive
Hold on a
Committee.
second, Paul. Let me bring it to order. All right, go ahead.
All right, welcome to the regularly scheduled Executive Committee meeting of the Beaufort County Council. If you would, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are both virtual and in the council chambers today. We have 5 of us are in council chambers, and we have 1, 2, I think 2 of us are remote, myself and Mr. Hervishon. Is anybody else remote that I'm missing here?
Mr. Lawson.
Mark Lawson's on here as well.
And
Who?
And Mr. McKellen is remote. Mr. Lawson, Mr. McKellen.
Okay, thank you.
Logan too.
unless he left, no. We think Logan's there.
Logan's here? Excellent.
I think so.
Public notice of this meeting has been published, posted and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Need a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Stu?
Thank you, Mr. Rodman. Thank you.
Mr. Dawson
second?
made the second. And Mr. Hervishon is also online.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Without objections, we'll approve the agenda. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we'll go on to approve the minutes of the March 7th, 2022 meeting. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Stu?
No, excellent. Okay. Without objection, we'll approve the minutes of the March 7th, 2022 meeting. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes of the March 7th, 2022 meeting are approved. Next, it's time for open citizens' comments. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes, total of 15 minutes, and will address council with respectful manner and appropriate decorum to the meeting, refraining from the use of profane, abusive, or obscene language. Are there any public comments?
No, sir, we don't have any.
All right. Move on to item number 7, which is an update of the Transportation Advisory Committee, who has been working diligently. I know for some time. I know, Gerald, you're going to introduce the speaker on that one, so go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman, and appreciate the opportunity. Prior to introducing Dean Moss, who really doesn't need much introduction, I think everybody in the community knows Dean. I would like to introduce Eric Clausen. Eric, if you'll come up. As most of you are aware, we've talked about Andrea Atherton, who's currently our Director of Transportation, is retiring. Her last day will be this Friday. So we've been seeking out, trying to find somebody that would be suitable to take her place. And in the process, also with her leaving, knew that there was opportunity for us to make some changes internally to the engineering division to be a little bit more efficient on how we handle projects. So what we've done is we've created instead of transportation, we've created a director of engineering. That's not my position. I'm not rehiring my position. But that position will include transportation, capital projects, and facilities maintenance. So a little bit more support to all those departments. And Eric's going to be taking that position just to make it a little bit clearer so we don't confuse, we're going to change my name to ACA of Infrastructure, just so his Director of Engineering makes sense. So Eric's joining us. He's got over 17 years of experience in Springfield, Missouri. We got in touch with him last year. We weren't able to work things out with him last year, so he took a brief hiatus and moved to North Carolina to Nags Head and was serving as Public Works Director there in Nags Head. And now we reached back out to him and said, hey, we still have this job opening, and actually it's changed a little bit. Are you interested? And actually right time, right place. So it all fell in place for us. We're extremely excited. We're trying to load the bench with a bunch of all-stars, and I think we've got another all-star with Eric. So Eric, if you want to just say.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
put you on the spot. Just
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity here. This is a place that I've always wanted to be. So this was just a tremendous opportunity, and just excited to build upon the past successes of the community, and whatever I can do to help facilitate that forward, I'm happy to do it.
All right, so without further ado, I'll introduce a little bit about the Transportation Advisory Committee. So council created this committee to talk about have citizens create something that can be put forth to council about a future sales tax this November. So we got started at the end of February, and we had a due date by the end of April that we would come back with, that committee would come back with a recommendation of what to proceed and put on the ballot for November. We've been meeting diligently since that February. I thought maybe we'd meet 3 or 4 times, and I was wrong in that. We actually have been very diligent in meeting every week, except one week where we had some pre-committed schedule conflicts. So we have 17 participants. Not everybody shows every time, but we have a good quorum and discussion. There's been a lot of good work that's come out of that. And I think you guys will be satisfied with the results. But to give you an update on that, Dean Moss, he's serving as the appointed chairman out of that committee that was appointed by the committee itself, and I thought they got the right person for the job, and he's done a great job leading the group. So Dean's here to kind of give you an in-stride update, and then also talk to you about where we are. So,
thank you, Jared. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I am honored to have been selected chair of this important committee. As Jared said, we've got a very good committee. The folks that y'all appointed have been doing a great job. We've had really, and I think very, very good participation. Not so much from Hardeeville, not so much from Yemassee, which is a little concerning because particularly Hardeeville, it's kind of hard to talk about anything going on in southern Beaufort County right now without getting Hardeeville involved. But we've had 7 good meetings and a lot of participation. I would say a very, very, very good staff support. County staff is just remarkable and been really dedicated to this. And I think we've made very good progress. This is complicated stuff, and particularly for a lot of the members on this committee who are just not familiar with the incredibly bureaucratic process of transportation planning, transportation financing. It is crazy unless you. So we took about 5 meetings, 4 to 5 meetings, just to learn and update people and get people up to speed on first on what the rules were, what the various pots of money out there were, and how we access them, and the priority work that's already been done by the LOCOG LATS folks, by of course Beaufort County Comprehensive Plan contained a lot of priorities. There are other state priorities out there that we looked through, and we had to spend literally 4 meetings getting organized on this thing and really understanding what we were trying to do. And in consequence, we're not yet finished. And I'm here to ask you for 2 more weeks. I think we can. We will meet again tomorrow night, and again next Tuesday night. And at that point, I feel we'll be ready to bring you something. So I'll be prepared, we will, as a committee, will be prepared to meet with you at your request anytime after the 10th. I would suggest maybe after the Monday, the 16th. But I want to tell you that the product we'll present to you is going to be a starting point for you and your staff. There need to be a lot of strategic and tactical thinking about how these details are best explained to the voters. Again, it's complicated stuff. We are trying to focus in on the projects that generally are agreed to have the greatest need in the county. But we also understand there's lots of stuff there that doesn't get put out there with flashing red lights. Dirt road paving, for example, repaving of streets, things that, you can't really list in a referendum, for example, all the projects you're going to do because you don't have enough room in the referendum. You can only put so many pages out there for the voters to look at. So that's where we are, and I'm optimistic we're going to bring you something that I think you're going to find very useful. And I think it's going to represent, if at least my reading of our committee is correct, it's going to represent a unanimous perspective of the committee. I think we've all kind of, we've bounced a lot of stuff around, and a lot of people are, we're initially concerned about this or concerned about that, but we've managed, I think, to bring folks together, and we're going to give you something that I think is going to be very useful to you. So that's all I have to say. I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dean, very much for that presentation. I know you all are working really, really hard. And of course, we're looking forward to hearing a full report sometime after March 16th. And we'll be in touch with you exactly when that will be, what committee that'll be, or whether it'll be full council or just what it'll be. But we really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Anything else?
Chairman, if I may. Logan,
I'm sorry, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I have a little concern about this. I know the committee's been working hard, but I know when we put this forward, we were in our motion that Mr. Passman put together, we were supposed to get a report by the 28th of April. We were already behind the 8 ball before we started, and this is just going to put us another at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks farther behind schedule than we already were. So I will be upfront and honest. Jared just said they met more than they thought they would, and they still don't have a report. So that is a little nerve-wracking when we have to put this out to the voters as quickly as possible. I mean, I understand we want to put the best product out there and we want to get this together, but this just gives us less time to work on it now as well on the county side. You figure we're not going to be able to touch this until almost the end of this month. I just wanted to put that out there that we were behind the 8 ball before we started this committee. And now we're close to 4 weeks behind schedule with the committee itself.
All right, well, this is a tough assignment, and I know you're all moving as fast as you can, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This moves us on to item number.
Wait a minute.
Chairman, you got a couple more. Yeah, I'll yield to Stu, but I'd like to
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, let me, Dean, I appreciate what all the committee has done, and we ask you to do a awesome task for this county, and I know it must have been very hair-wracking. You still got a lot of hair in your head, but I know you pulled a few of those trying to get that committee together and to move it forward. I have no problem extending a couple of weeks to the committee to do it right, to bring it before us. I appreciate what you're doing with road pavement, both dirt as well as resurfacing. And I think we have a transportation committee in place. And if they have extra money, they have a science, they have a study that's in place. And if they had extra money, they know exactly where to put those funds. And they got a priority list that all they have to do is extend that priority list to put more pavement on the ground. So I don't have a problem with the allocation funding for those continuous program. But what I really want to say, as far as I'm concerned, whatever comes in that package that you would present to us, I'm looking to the committee to present that to us. As a council member, I can recommend taking something out, but I am not gonna recommend putting anything in it. If it's not in that package, then it's never gonna even have a consideration at all from as far as I'm concerned. I will say that much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? I didn't mean to ignore somebody. I didn't see him.
Mr. Rodney.
Yeah, a couple things, Dean. Thank you for leading this. One, York touched on, which is a mechanism to allocate funds. And if there are various pots of money, there may be other mechanisms that are needed to address those. So I do tend to think that's an important part of whatever we explain to the public, so that it's not just give us a bunch of money and somehow we'll take care of it. I think having the mechanisms highlighted will be important. No problem with a little more time. If I remember correctly, this has to go to the state. It's in either the July or August timeframe. Do we know what that schedule is downstream of us?
It's August when it has to go. So to reiterate, as Councilman Cunningham, so we have to talk about it and then have 3 readings and an ordinance, public hearing and an ordinance. So that's a 6-week process internally. So by extension of 2 weeks, there's still time to make that August deadline.
Good. Okay. And lastly, with the municipalities, is this something that we end up engaging them after they have the recommendations, or are they?
Well, they're part of the decision. They're part of the committee.
Yeah, we have been very sensitive to the municipalities and their priorities. And so I feel confident that we'll be presenting something to you that the municipalities are comfortable with.
Okay, good.
Can't guarantee it, you know, how this game is played. But and with respect to your other comment, Councilman, we will include in our recommendations to you a process by which we move forward, assuming that we end up with pots of money to be distributed, a process by which those can be distributed, obviously under your supervision, but a group to bring forward to you, say, okay, we ought to do this year over here, and maybe this year over there. So
that's important.
We're thinking our way through it.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I had one question. Regarding the timeline, you're going to make recommendations on that too, correct? On how long it should be?
How long it should be, how much it should be, where it should go.
Great.
Anybody else?
Excuse me, Gerald.
So I just speak without this, turning this on?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. Dean, look, I want to personally thank you and the members of the committee for taking on this task. I know that you all had some trials and tribulations to overcome, but nevertheless you persevered and you're moving forward. It's unfortunate that you need an additional 2 weeks, but I can understand that. And you haven't given us much detail as to what the list of project is going to look like. You've given us a snapshot, but I'm curious and I'm waiting to see the final product, and hopefully I can lend my support to it. But I want to thank you and the committee in advance for your diligence to do this work and come forth with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Gerald. All right, thank you, Dean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. That brings us to item number.
Paul, before you end that, it would seem that with the 2-week delay and bringing it before council in a timely fashion, that it's an ordinance that has a first, second, public hearing, and third reading, that the first reading of the ordinance should be brought to council on May the 23rd.
That's right.
With the second reading on June the 13th.
That's right.
And I believe we have 2 meetings in June, so I think it's towards the end of June.
Yeah.
June 27th.
June 27th, we could have the third reading.
Yeah,
So the second reading could be the public hearing on June the 13th.
That's correct.
I think it's an aggressive timeline, but a timeline that is needed. And that's what I would suggest that county council.
You should receive the formal report at public facilities on the 16th.
Okay.
Okay.
A recommendation to council to start action.
It also strikes me that we might want to consider having more than one public hearing so that we maybe had them spread out geographically, because this will be of interest to a lot of people.
We can
maybe
do
more
two.
than
We can do one at second, one at third if you all desire for us to do so.
and maybe even some local ones. I don't know.
Well, see, that may be part of the
Well, a public hearing is
educational.
different from
Right.
public input meetings. So.
Right, right. See, we're doing the due diligence of what we have to do to pass the ordinance. Thereafter, it is incumbent upon county council to educate the public, which is what you are talking about. We can't advocate. All we can do is present the package around the county, much like we did with redistricting. We went to where the people live to say, this is what the component parts are.
And we're happy to do that for you all. If you all want us to do community meetings around, we'll be happy to do that, so that folks have a good understanding of what's moving forward. With regards to municipalities, you know, they have appointees on the committee. I trust that those appointees are communicating back to the group that appointed them.
And if I remember correctly, we had thought that this advisory committee would play a useful role in advocating when the time comes. That
Yes.
we can't.
So hopefully we'll have a unanimous recommendation from that committee, and that's what Mr. Moss is working hard to do, and is taking some extra time in order to achieve that.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Greenway. Now we go to number 8. Item number 8 is a recommendation for approval of the appointment of Eric Greenway to the Southern Carolina Alliance Board of Directors for a first term. For those of you who may not remember, we have 3 appointments to the Southern Carolina Alliance. We need folks who will, number 1, who will attend regularly, and number 2, aggressively represent the interests of Beaufort County. And I think we can all agree that Eric Greenway will do that. I'm a little surprised he's willing to do it, but I appreciate it. And so the motion is to appoint Eric Greenway for an initial term to the Southern Carolina Alliance as one of our 3 appointees. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make that a motion, Mr. Chairman. Stu?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, in discussion, comments from members of council?
Yes, if I might, Paul, with this recommending appointing Eric to the Southern Carolina Alliance Board of Directors, do we have anybody that have to come off the board in order for us to put Eric on the board?
We do. We have 3 members that we've appointed previously, and one of them's term has expired, and this will be, Eric would be, if passed, Eric would be filling that term.
All right, the appointee whose term is expired, are they advocating for reappointment?
Well, it's our appointment, and we're looking for somebody who will attend regularly and aggressively represent the interests of Beaufort County. And it's our opinion, certainly it's my opinion, that we need somebody new, and that would be Eric.
So without us having knowledge of what you just mentioned about the attendance, is that one of the reasons why we are not reappointing that individual and having Eric to fill his position?
Well, it is. We're not here to discuss personalities, but the answer to the question is yes. That's one of the reasons. Whoever we appoint, we expect them to attend the meetings and to aggressively represent our interests.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
Yes,
I do.
Mr. Glover has a question.
I have a concern with not with Eric, but with Eric as our administrator. Have we ever appointed the administrator to be on this board? Is that, I thought we were looking for people in the community, businesses, to be serving on the board. Is that, have any of our administrators been on this board in the past?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Probably not.
Okay.
Based on the research that I've done in the last couple of hours, I didn't see any administrators serving on this role. So this was a situation that I was approached about. So
let me ask you this: as a council, Mr. Chairman, are we shifting our approach with economic development in the community in Beaufort County?
Not at all. Not at all.
Because we have our economic board that's working, having the county administrator there. Would he be circumventing? Sure. Okay. Is there a need for the economic board? I mean, would he be circumventing any effort of the county, of the economic board at this time?
Not at all. The Economic Development Commission is doing a good job, and we want to get the same results out of the Southern Carolina Alliance.
Do you need a
and no, we cannot do that with having more community folks in the Southern Carolina board versus the administrator. The administrator has a lot of voice and power as an administrator. Now, you know, I have real serious concerns about that at this time. Has nothing to do with the personality, but I think we really want to have more community folks involved with the economic process in this county. And I'm going to use an example. When Gerald in Loophole had a public meeting recently, the Economic Development Board was not a part of that. That meeting was with your staff, your community, and the administrator. And I'm wondering why the Economic Development Board was not a part of that. It seems to me that we may be shifting our economic approach to development. And we've invested a lot into the economic board. We need to have reports from them to see how things are. But I'm just wondering whether that's in our best interest at this time. And I would really think about this, Mr. Chairman, a little bit more seriously, just not to put somebody forward at this time like this. I don't have a problem with a chairman. I mean, Mr. Somerville, the next item, number 9, because you're on the board. We have council representation there, but we did not want to have too much of county government in this process. We wanted to diminish that and allow the community and this team of economic development to move economic in this district. That's my comment.
Thank you. I saw some other hands up. I saw Logan and Mark, I'll get you next. Logan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
I think
Chairman.
you're on mute. Okay.
Yep. One question and then a comment. Eric, you just when you commented to Mr. Glover, you said you were approached by that. Would you be willing to tell me who you were approached by to join this committee?
Yeah, Mr. Black with the Southern Carolina Alliance.
Okay. I do share the same concerns as Mr. Glover. If this is going up for a vote, I won't support it. It's nothing against Eric. I just think that it should be individuals appointed in the community, and that's the way we should stick with it. No further comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. And Eric is definitely qualified. He's probably overqualified to be on there. His plate is full. And what I'd probably like to do is I see Ms. Feaster in the audience there. I know she has served on there. I'd like to actually give her my voice, and I'd like to have her come up and ask her a couple of questions, because again, I know she's been on that and has been at most of those meetings with you, Paul. Would that be acceptable?
Sure, of course, of course. Ms. Feaster, are you there? Yes, there. Okay, yeah, come forward.
Here, hello. Mr. Lawson, questions, I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to give kind of my perspective too as the BCEDC chair. I have talked to our executive committee today when we saw the agenda, but happy to answer any questions and give you my perspective if you'd like.
You've been on the SCA board?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been on there?
I've been on there for 3 years, almost.
Is it as Mr. Glover was saying, is it good for us to have someone from the community on there? Or is it better to have political or government employees or things like that? What's your feeling on what would suit the county best because this is a very important board for us.
Yeah.
What do you think would suit us best?
I'll kind of reflect back to 2019 when we had the same discussion. We provided a recommendation back in 2019 to the council. It's council's decision. But as your economic development arm, the council has always been from the very beginning when the BCEDC was formed to have us try to give our recommendations on decisions for what's best in economic development in the region and the community here in the council. Or here on our committee. So when we went through that, I explained back then the way in which we approached it was that we have three positions on the SCA board. The first, we wanted to make sure that the board chair, whoever that be, is placed as one of the representatives to SCA because that person knows in executive sessions and what projects are going on and things like that and can make informed decisions at SCA level. We also asked that we have a representative from county council beyond that as one of the seats because we know that council obviously has an investment in this and should have a voice and be able to make comments and have discussion at SCA level. When we looked at the third position, part of our goals and our strategic planning, and we've been through this and going through it in detail this year, especially as we try to launch through, we'll be in strategic planning next month talking about it again. The private side of this, we have a lot of public funds, all public funds, going into economic development. The private side, though, is a very big factor. And as a startup economic development corporation, we realize that we have to start somewhere. But including a private side of this that is on our board of directors was very fundamental in understanding exactly how we need to motivate and help our private sector contribute to economic development here in the area. So that third position, we recommended back then in 2019 that it be filled with somebody on our board that's a private sector position. That was Mike Alsko. I will tell you, we sent a letter over to you all about a year ago, maybe a little under a year ago, but close to a year ago, asking for his reappointment. I don't know if it came before you all or if it was tabled or if it just was lost. I'm not sure, but it never was decided. So we've kind of been sitting in this little limbo area for the last year with Mike Alsko not being reappointed. Now, I will say this, last year, Mike has been at all but one meeting at SCA, so he has been actively involved, him and I either via Zoom or physically there with me. And I know this year it's been difficult. We had a retreat for one of our meetings, which I couldn't attend myself. I tried to be there as much as I could in Zoom at the times where it allowed, but that's very hard. And Mike couldn't be there, but we just had a meeting last week, and it was our second one. I was there and was plugging Mike in as we went along. So he is active, but I will say in Mike's defense too, we are looking and he is trying to take a step back. So this next year, as we strategically plan next month, we are looking at what position is going to move into that private sector position or who, and would come back to you at that point with another recommendation at that point to make sure the SCA is fulfilled on that level of what we recommend. I was surprised with this on the agenda, I'll be very frank. Last week, actually, Eric was voted by our board at SCA to be a board advisor. So his input is now being accepted as a board advisor. Does he have a vote? No, but he'll be able to be there as an advisor, and Danny Black did recommend that. Okay, so I talked to Danny, briefly today, just asking about administrators on the SCA board. They've had two in the 25-year history of SCA of administrators beyond that. They were temporary, and it was for emergency reasons because a council member had to step off or was leaving because of leaving their position. So it was temporary. It's not normal. So that was the other side. But coming back to it, I firmly believe we have a very active board. We have a lot of voice on SCA. with Eric being an advisor, we now have an additional person to be a part of the input that SCA provides. So I'm not sure, kind of the thinking. I would love to come back to you all, have this discussion maybe after our strategic planning this next month, and maybe take a look at who is moving into that private sector position and make a recommendation that our board supports for that position being filled.
Thank you, Ms. Station. Mark, is that all the questions you had?
I mean, yes, that's all the questions I had. And my thoughts are, I mean, again, I think Eric is great in his job, and I think he'd be great on this board. However, as Mr. Glover said, I think we just need a little more time to make sure we're doing the right thing for Eric and doing the right thing for the county and doing the right thing for the citizens, that we might need to at least delay this a little bit until we get a little more information. But again, that's just my thought.
That's fine. Why don't you make a motion, Mark, to postpone it, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about it among ourselves at some point. So why don't you go ahead and make a motion to postpone it through probably at least until June, the June meeting.
I'll be happy to do that. I'd like to make the motion to postpone this appointment until the 1st of June, or whatever the first executive meeting is after the 1st of June.
Great.
Second.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any objections?
I have a question.
And I have a question.
Well, I don't have a question. I'd like to make a statement. It's unfortunate that we're having this discussion or this issue at this time of the process where I thought we were making good strides and good improvements in our efforts of economic development in Beaufort County. But I must be honest, there seems to be an element amongst us that continues to try to upset the apple cart, in my opinion, and that's my personal opinion. However, the issue that we're discussing today, most of us on council had no knowledge of any inkling, any concerns of the attendance at the Economic Development Board, any issues that there might be amongst the membership or even amongst the director. To bring this before us today without us having any information, any knowledge of what's going on, it says to me that we're lacking in communication. There's a breakdown in communication somewhere in the process, and we need to fix that. We need to fix that.
We can give you the information you don't have, and I think it's a good idea just to move it forward.
No, we should have had this information prior to us sitting on the DS today trying to make a decision. We should have been advised as to what's going on at the Economic Development Board meetings, as well as what's taking place with the Board of Directors at the Alliance. We were getting quarterly reports from the Economic Development Corporation. And so I would suggest that we get back to that, and let's keep council informed as to what you all are doing on the Economic Development Board with the director, as well as the communication between the Alliance as well, so that we all are on the same page here.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor to postpone it until the June meeting. That motion will pass without objections. If there are no objections, are there any objections?
Mr. Rodman has a question.
What's that?
A comment, Mr. Chairman. I think there's some confusion here, and it goes like this. The EDC is set up to have a lot of input from across our county, and it does that. So there's members that are widespread interests to do that. What we're talking about is how we deal with our sister counties within the Alliance. If I forget, there's 5 or 6 of them. And so we have 3 seats on that. It's logical to have the chair of the EDC there. It's certainly logical to have 1 from council. I've always argued we ought to have 2 from council, but it's I think it's heavily a social time when they get together and get to know each other and chat. there's not a lot of decisions that are made that I've ever been aware of that influence us, because anything that was to influence us would have to come back to us for approval. And so I actually think having either the chair or vice chair, Paul, you in this particular case as a member, and having the administrator would foster a lot of good discussion on projects and how we deal with our sister counties, which you wouldn't necessarily have from somebody from the private sector. So comfortable with us take a look at it and come back, but I think Eric would do a great job, and I think it would serve us well in terms of how we deal with our sister counties.
Thank you, Mr. Rodman. We have a motion on the floor in a second to postpone it until June. That will pass without objection. Are there any objections? Okay, and then it passes. It'll be June. We'll bring it back up. Item number 9 on the agenda is recommend a reappointment of Paul Somerville for a 3-year term to the Southern Carolina Alliance Board of Directors. To have a motion for that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from members of council on that?
Good choice. Good choice.
Thank you. That will pass without objection.
But why would you want to do it, Paul?
Good question. Good question. Without objection, so we're good there. And that brings us to item number 10, which is adjournment. All matters having been brought before this, we are adjourned.
How long to set up?
About 5 minutes. It's literally broadcasting.
Natural Resource Committee meeting to session. And we will open up with a call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This afternoon, we have Councilman Dawson, Chairman Passamit, and Councilman Rodman, myself, and Councilman Glover in person. And then online, we have Councilman Herbishon, Councilman Lawson, and Councilman Cunningham. Did I got everybody? Okay.
I think so. Close enough.
All right. Public notice of this meeting was published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act, correct, Ms. Brock? Number 4 is approval of agenda. I think we may have a motion to amend the agenda. Yes, sir, Councilman Dawson.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda to, we have item number 13 is due to be discussed in an executive session. I'd like to amend the motion to move that to the open session discussion. And it's basically talking about negotiations and incident to proposed contractual arrangements and proposed purchase or sale of property in the Lobika area and due diligence and that type of stuff. So if we'd move that onto the regular agenda and take it out of executive session.
I'll second that, Madam Chairman.
We have a second. Without objection, that will become number 13, and it will be done in open session. All right. Moving back to the published agenda, we have citizens' comments. We have anyone who wishes to speak.
You forgot the minutes.
Oh, approval of minutes. Thank you. I hear a motion to approve the minutes from April 4th, 2022.
So moved.
All right. Councilman Dawson made a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Councilman Glover. Without objection, the minutes from April 4th are approved. Moving down to citizens.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
we actually need to vote on the agenda again. You voted on the motion to amend. Now we need the main motion.
Okay, all right. You are absolutely right. All right, let's go back to approval of the agenda as amended. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved, do we approve the amended agenda?
I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Without objection, the agenda was approved as amended. We've done the minutes. Now we can go to citizen comments. Anyone who wishes to speak during the citizen comment portion of the meeting will limit.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the amended motion now becomes the primary motion.
Right.
So
we approved it. And it has been approved as agenda, as amended.
Okay.
No longer than 3 minutes a total, and will address the council in a respectful manner appropriate to the decorum of the meeting, refraining from the use of profane, abusive, or obscene language. We do have one person who would like to speak. It's Ms. Jessica White, if she would come forward.
Thank you. Jessie White on behalf of the Coastal Conservation League. I just wanted to offer our support for a couple of the items before you this afternoon. Number 7, to close a loophole in the tree mitigation procedure. We really appreciate staff identifying that and bringing it forward, as well as the text amendment number 10 to clarify that both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands should be calculated in the base site area calculations. I also just wanted to announce to you all that our new project manager with the Coastal Conservation League is here in attendance. His name is Grant McClure. And
can he come up front so we can?
And I wanted to introduce him, and also briefly just wanted to also appreciate the amendment to bring the discussion about the due diligence over the Loophole site into the open session. So thank you. And I'll let Grant say hello.
Everybody, really grateful for the opportunity to be here and look forward to getting to know you all. So thanks.
Grant, what was your last name?
McClure.
McClure.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Glad you're on board. I know Ms. White can use the additional help. Okay, going back to the agenda, number 7 is recommend approval of an ordinance for text amendment to the Community Development Code, Section 5.11.100.f.1, tree removal on developed properties to close a loophole which allows specimen and mitigation trees to be removed post-construction of single-family homes. And Mr. Merchant, you're going to present this?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to give a little context. There's 4 items here, and they seem kind of random, but one of the things that we're doing as a department, now having just adopted the comprehensive plan, is we're taking a look at the Community Development Code and making corrections. This is the first batch. These were fairly straightforward and easy to craft amendments, and we're hoping to come forward with 2 different additional batches later on this year, so just to give some context to why these are on here. This first item deals specifically with our tree requirements. We have specific requirements in our ordinance for new construction that requires specimen trees to be saved, and when they're taken down, they're mitigated per caliper inch. And one of the things that we did in our ordinance, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, and this was in response to existing property owners, or homeowners, wanting to take a tree down. We have, I would say, less stringent requirements for a property owner who wants to remove a tree on their property versus when new construction is occurring, to provide more flexibility for a homeowner than when a developer is coming in, developing a new community. One of the things that is happening, and I have Amanda Flake is here from our department who deals with trees on a day-to-day basis, so if you have any questions. But what we're seeing is the word is getting out with new single-family home construction that, whisper in the ear of the homeowner, well, if you want to take out this tree, wait till we get our CO and then go ahead and we'll take it out for you. And so this is crafted to require a certain time period. In this case, it's 5 years before those homeowner tree requirements kick in. So that's
okay. I'll open it up for questions. This closes a loophole was being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? How about online? Any questions from anyone? Just for clarification, specimen trees are how defined as?
Yeah, in our ordinance are defined, I don't have them memorized, but it's by species. So certain species like live oak, I believe it's 12-inch caliper and up or 16 and inch caliper and up for live oak. Other species like loblolly pine, it's a larger diameter, but it's basically to preserve important, in some trees like magnolia and dogwood go down to 4-inch. So the purpose is to preserve those significant trees on the site. For somebody who owns a home, and in this case with the new ordinance for 5 years or more, we have something called grand trees, but it's basically, and actually I think with this new language we've got rid of the word grand, but it's just when you want to remove a tree, the threshold is larger than the specimen trees when a developer's coming.
Okay, go ahead. Councilman Glover.
Y'all go sure? Yeah, because you may ask this question.
Does this supersede any HOA requirements in developed communities that are out there?
No, I mean, if there are HOA requirements for saving trees, those would, if they're more stringent than what we have, those would supersede the county.
But if they're less stringent?
If they're less stringent, I mean, whatever is more stringent would apply.
Okay.
But one thing I should mention is that if a tree is required to be saved for a mitigation, when a development is approved, those trees would still need to be saved on a single family lot. So it's not, somebody couldn't come in and saying, well, I'm saving this group of pines over here to mitigate the trees I'm taking out over here, and then those are removed. So those will still be saved as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Glover?
Yeah, I did not recognize that pine, particular loblolly pine was a specimen tree.
It only is it 30 or 36?
I'm sorry, what loblolly is specimen at 24?
Oh, 24, I'm sorry.
Grand at 36.
Yeah. So larger loblollies are specimen trees in the ordinance.
Okay, at some point in time, they lose their life expectancy. I mean, the oak tree is different. I mean, it's going to be here beyond my time. But at some point in time, the pine is going to lose its life existence. And it's going to, I mean, it has to be removed. I guess you're saying that if it dies, then you can remove it?
Depends, they have to get a permit depending on the species and the size.
Yeah. You know, because particular loblolly is, I call those whatever tree, you know. But
it depends on the type and the size. And so if you have a 24 or 25-inch loblolly that's a specimen tree and you have to take it out to build your house, then you do have to mitigate that inch for inch. And so that's what we look at. Okay, do you have trees
but
on
it doesn't
site?
have the same value as a live oak, though.
But the live oak's are specimen at 16, and a loblolly pine is specimen at 24. So there's a difference in the size. So it doesn't. Live oaks are.
The replacement part comes in too, and I thought the inch for live oak and just replanting another pine tree for a pine.
No, if they're specimen and you're taking them out, and it's a specimen tree and it's on that list for specimen, even including pines, you still have to do it inch for inch. And then what the zoning people will do is they look at what trees are remaining on site, and if any pine trees are under the specimen size, they can use those for mitigation. Or if they don't have enough, then they can pay into the tree fund, or they can plant back, or do a combination of all three. But even if you take out a specimen pine, it's inch for inch.
Okay. I don't place that much value on pine trees, that's all.
All right, Councilman Rodman?
Yeah, to your point, York, my son is a forester and he refers to pines as a crop.
Exactly.
I know that, and I don't know trees nearly as well as Amanda, but there's a huge loblolly over at Congaree National Park. And so they do get a lot bigger. I think we do grow many of them as a crop, and, you know, they're grown close together and they're like toothpicks, but yeah. I mean, if they're given enough room, and I don't know if you could verify.
And they're more apt to fall on your house.
Well,
lightning and everything.
And that's a reason that we also give greater flexibility for homeowners, you know, because they're looking at issues like that, and you know, the county there was a time where we were being blamed every time there was a power outage just because the county won't let you take down any trees. So, I mean, part of the purpose of having those two different standards was to give that greater flexibility to property owners.
I do like trees, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to go forward with this?
I'll move it, Madam Chairman.
All right, a second?
I'll second this.
All right, second by Councilman Glover. All right, without objection, we will approve the proposed amendment on the trees. Thank you. The next one is number 8. Recommend approval of an ordinance for text amendment to the CDC sections in Division 3.2 transit zones and sections in Division 3.3 to correct and clarify parking space requirement conflicts between zoning districts and the parking space requirements table in Section 5.5.40.B. This is a little more complicated than trees, though.
Yeah, actually, it's fairly simple, but I apologize. I think this is the bulk of the packet, is this amendment. But when we adopted the CDC, one of the things that we wanted to do was in Article 3, we wanted for each of the zoning districts to have most of the information in there so that somebody could, you know, in that small section, figure out what their setback is, what the permitted uses are, their density. And the consultant at that time also put in parking standards, and they had this simplified version. And we've been, I would say, struggling with there being contradictions between the parking standards that are in each of the individual districts in Article 3, and then in Article 5 is where we actually have our more detailed parking standards, which list greater number of uses and very specific requirements for each of those uses. And what we determined that we should do is just simply, for most of the districts in Article 3, with the exception of our 2 T4 transect zones, we're going to remove the parking requirements and simply reference them to Article 5, where the requirements are in the code. The 2 transect zones, we have, I would say, more lenient requirements because they're mixed-use, higher-density districts where there's more of a chance for trip capture and shared parking. And so we're leaving those alone, but every single other district, we're removing the parking, the number of space requirements, and simply referring to Article 5. But that, of course, meant going into each individual district and amending them, so that's...
All right, I'll open it up for questions. Anyone have questions? Online, any questions? Okay, seeing no questions. Would anyone care to make a motion that we approve this change?
Happy to, Madam Chairman. Motion.
A second?
I'll make the second then.
All right, thank you. Without objection, number 8 is approved to go forward for the parking space requirements in section 5.5. All right, number 9 is agreement, recommend approval of an ordinance for text amendment to the CDC regarding guest houses to clarify the standards for that. Minimum of lot size requirements for guest houses located in the May River Community Preservation District.
Okay, and this particular amendment is specific to just one district, and that's the May River Community Preservation District. And nothing in this amendment establishes guest houses. Those are already in that district. But what we're doing is getting rid of some odd language that actually favored, allowed more guest houses on new lots than existing lots of record, which seemed to be the reverse of what would logically be the requirement. Typically, greater flexibility is given to a lot of record versus a new lot of the same size. And so we actually encountered a situation where this strange language stood in the way, and we issued a staff interpretation, but we were using this as an opportunity to clean up that language. There are other issues related to guest houses that we are most likely going to be addressing down the road. There's certain parts of the county where, certain communities that have multiple guest houses, and so we anticipate addressing that issue down the road. But this specifically deals with one district and existing language that is in there. And I'm willing to provide more clarification, but that's kind of an overall description of what we're doing here.
Open it up for any questions? Is this in Councilman Lawson's district?
I think most of it is. It's on the May River 46 between town of Bluffton and Pritchardville.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to go forward with this, to approve it.
So moved.
Councilman Glover made the motion. I have a second regarding guest houses in the May River Community Preservation District. Have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Councilman Rodman seconds it. So without objection, this will go forward for that one. All right, next on the agenda is recommend approval of an ordinance for text amendment to the CDC, section 6.1.4 G, base site area calculations to clarify that both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands must be subtracted from the gross site area to determine base site area for development.
All right, so base site area basically is when there is a parcel and it's being developed, you subtract out all the wetlands, you would subtract out any marsh. If it's a King's Grant property that has marsh on it, you would also subtract out if there's a small portion of it that's across the street. And all of this is done for the purposes of, once you establish base site area, then you apply the density of that particular district. And what this is meant to do is avoid somebody taking a lot that is 90% undevelopable, but using the acreage to establish a density that is much greater than what the parcel could support. And so since in our ordinance, we require both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional freshwater wetlands to be saved on a site, that we're adding both of those, or clarifying that both of those are subtracted out when we're calculating the base site area of the site. So that's.
I have a question. I'll open it up in a minute, but do the municipalities have something similar, or are we just the county?
As far as establishing, I'm not sure if I haven't looked to see how they establish density of a site.
Okay.
I know that the town of Port Royal, with their new code now, they require saving wetlands, even non-jurisdictional.
Even non-jurisdictional, okay. All right, let's open it up for questions. Any questions from anyone? Yes, sir, Councilman Glover.
When you establishing your base site for density, how does open space, could the wetland be used for open space? If you need open space to determine your site development, can you use that as part of the equation?
Yes, the wetland would be part of that open space.
Okay, but not the buildable areas, what you're focusing on.
Yeah. And part of it is to avoid, we're seeing, and I would say also because the more we grow, people are trying to develop on more marginal lots, and you could put a lot of density, if half the lot is unbuildable, then you're getting greater density than that site, the lot could have capacity to support.
I've been always under the impression that a lowland, wetland, lowland, not necessarily wetland, but a low land density, low under sea level, I guess, below sea level. You always had a problem with septic tank being a part of it, but I guess nowadays with new technology, you can have a very low land and also have septic tank there with this new septic system, right? So this will actually come in play with people having more acreage, but not buildable acreage. I may have a 5-acre tract of land, but only have a half an acre on that property. I can't get 2 houses on that. But this would eliminate me even thinking about getting 2 houses on that. Is that what we're doing here? No?
That's a question for our zoning administrator, because I don't, when we're, somebody has a 6-acre lot and you're subtracting out we would allow the minimum lot size of 3 acres, or you need 6 acres to get 2 lots in rural. This would not affect that, but it would affect somebody building a subdivision or developing a site. But I don't believe it would eliminate their ability to subdivide that parcel in half if they still had buildable area on the 2 lots that would result from that subdivision.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Are there any questions from anyone online? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this, number 10.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Councilman Dawson. A second?
So moved,
All
Madam
right.
Chairman.
And second by Councilman Rodman. Without objection, this will go forward to full council regarding the calculation of jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands. Number 11 is approval of reappointment of Gerald Schultz to the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority Board of Directors. Do I have a motion to reappoint Mr. Schultz to the board?
So moved. Is he in my district?
I think he's a Ladies Island district, so he may be. I'm not sure. Do you know which district he lives in?
I don't know, ma'am. We just
He might
received
be
his
in my
letter
district.
Okay, all right.
from their board requesting that he be reappointed.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Glover to reappoint him. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Councilman Rodman. All
Otherwise,
right,
we'll be here all night.
yep. All right, number 12, recommended,
This will be moved to council for approval.
yes, it will be moved to full council for approval without objection. Without objection.
Okay.
Number 12, recommend approval of appointments of Dennis Ross for at-large and Ronald Buchanan for Stormwater District 8 to the Stormwater Management Utility Board with an expiration date of 2026. This is the Stormwater District 8, not the County Council District 8. Do I have a motion for those appointments?
So move. I know Buchanan is in my district, so move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do we have a second? Mr. Rodman, do you have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, this is seconded to, without objection, we will move forward to full council for appointment of Dennis Ross for at-large and Ronald Buchanan for District 8. Okay. The last item, we had taken and moved it out of executive session, which is pursuant to South Carolina codes, we're gonna talk about the contractual arrangements and proposed purchase or sale of property at Lobico. And we'll turn that over to Mr. Greenway.
Yeah, what we're doing today is not necessarily contractual negotiations or anything. I'm coming before you today to secure approval to spend some money to do some due diligence, but most importantly is to go over the plan that we have put together with Councilmember Dawson and a group of stakeholders from the Dale and Lobico area who have been working with me ever since I was a planning director on this particular site. So Sarah, whenever you're ready to with the presentation, that would be great.
You're gonna give us some facts about number of acreage,
Yep, I'm gonna try to do all of that for you.
okay. But the main thing you need from this is a decision on whether to go forward with due diligence.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I need authorization to do that because of my spending thresholds now, but I certainly do not want to spend the money to do this if council is not interested in pursuing this as an issue.
Okay.
Eric, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Before the county administrator gets started, I'd just like to clarify that this is a project that I brought to Eric, and Eric basically has spearheaded this project, looking at what he's going to present to us. And to Councilman Glover's point, I just want to clarify that Jan O'Toole, our Economic Development Director, was not left out of the process. He was informed, he was at several of the meetings, and so he was on board. It's just that Eric spearheaded it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dawson. I appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah, so basically what you have on the screen here is, if you look at the gray area, the area on the right side of John Meeks Road, as I'm facing the map, is the old Lobico Chemical Factory. The property on the left side of the road, those are 3 or 4 parcels that are currently zoned industrial. There are an additional 3 parcels up along Kings Neck Road that are green in nature. Go back, Sarah. It's the 3 parcels adjacent to the gray area fronting Kings Neck Road right there. This will become clear to you in a moment. That gray area is heavy industrially zoned property, and that's going to be key for us. And there is, as you all know, there is no sewer on this side of the Well Branch. Sewer stops at the Well Branch Elementary School. So when I first came here in 2018, shortly after I was here, I heard something called jelly ball, jellyfish processing, and I didn't know what that was, but I looked into it. and it was slated to go on the chemical factory property. And I got to looking into it, and people said, you know, you can stop this, right? And I was like, I don't know how we would stop it. The property's on heavy industrial. If they want to do that, that's an allowable zoning use. I think it was stopped the first time because of some DHEC issues, but if it were to come back, I don't think we could stop it. But more importantly, with the heavy industrial zoning there, and the fact that there is no adequate infrastructure, it became evident to me that the only thing that we could ever hope for on this property is, you know, what I would term to be unclean or less than satisfactory industrial uses going in there, by meaning that industrial users that could operate on septic systems and just using the water supply on Kings Neck Road
Do you
that feeds
mind
into
if
this
we
property.
ask a few questions as we go?
Yeah, certainly.
So the jelly ball, was it on both of those parcels, or
No, it was just slated to go on the chemical factory
where
property.
the buildings were? Okay.
Yeah. The folks that own the other property have been working with economic development since that time. Right after I came here, I met with John O'Toole and the owners of that property out on that site. They were requesting about, you know, getting sewer over there and rezoning the property to make it more viable. So I reached, Mr. Dawson and I began discussing things. We put together a little community committee, and we've been working on trying to do something with this the entire time. And what we came up with in a combination, in the blue area you can see there behind it, there's two shades of blue. You have the Dale Community Preservation District, and then you also have a Dale Community Preservation District that allows some commercial development up there as well. But we have a Dale Community Preservation Committee that serves on this. Just to orient you a little bit, if you are familiar with the Low Country Produce, that's up along 21 there near the Labico Farms Road area right there. And you all have approved due diligence for the land to the layoff right there where Sarah was just with the cursor, for us to do a community farm there through rural and critical lands. So Sarah, if you can go to the next slide, please.
And the only way you get to this property is by that road off Kings Neck?
Kings Neck and Morgan Road. John Meeks Road goes all the way through from Kings Neck into Morgan Road. Both Kings Neck and Morgan Road intersect with 21 just after you cross the Well Branch. So if you will look, you'll see that we own a right-of-way that goes out to Highway 21. There it's shown right there on this map as a 66-foot right-of-way for an access road. So the plan would be, and what we've talked with the group about in the community, is that the county would acquire all of the property, the Labico Chemical Site, those 3 parcels that are currently zoned T2R, and all of the vacant heavy industrial property that you can see outlined in bright green on the right side there. That's wetlands on that property, and I'm gonna get to that in just a moment. But we would acquire all of that property. We would build a road from 21 down that railroad right-of-way into the property, and we could terminate John Meeks Road on the Kings Neck end and the Morgan Road end. If you look down at the Morgan Road site, there's a bunch of wetlands there, and the road actually splits the wetlands. So my plan would be to take out the road, cul-de-sac it right at the end of sites 12 and 14, and restore that wetlands area. That way any truck, vehicular traffic into this industrial commerce area would be directly to 21, and no truck traffic would come in off of Kings Neck or Morgan Road, and no employee traffic. We may keep the emergency access on John Meeks Road out to Kings Neck Road, because that's the area nearest the fire department, so that they would have a quicker route into the property. So the plan would be to acquire the property, to downzone the property from heavy industrial to something that's more appropriate and aligns with the comp plan. The comp plan calls for this area to be light industrial uses. So we would downzone it, work with the community to identify some uses, the uses that they would like to see the economic development group put forth to locate in this area. And we would, and this is the clitcher that everyone needs to be aware of, the proposal would include, and we've worked with Beaufort, Jasper Water and Sanitation, would include extending the sewer line across the Well Branch Road, up 21, turning it down that railroad right-of-way into the property. And we would amend the comprehensive plan to say that that sewer line extension is only allowed to be used and connected to for the industrial commerce area that we're developing. Beaufort Jasper Water and Sanitation has told us that if we do that, they will hold the line on that and will not allow any other connections to that sewer line or allow any other extensions as long as we align it with our comprehensive plan, because that's what they use to regulate the sewer extension. We will need to do a wetlands delineation because you see all of that bright green there on the property. That's what's currently shown on the wetlands inventory, National Wetlands Inventory. We don't think there's that much wetlands on there for that. We're going to need to have appraisals done. We're going to need to do some survey work potentially, and we're definitely going to need to have phase 1 and phase 2 environmentals done on the property. We're pretty sure that Lobeco Chemical Site is clean, is in the process of being cleaned up, and that's either finished or close to being finished, but we need to investigate that. So
I'm familiar with the phase 1 and phase 2 of not Lobeco, but the adjacent property. But it was done in 2012.
Yeah, we'll have to redo all that.
All of that would be redone.
Yes, ma'am.
So there'd be phase 1 and phase 2 done on everything that's showing up as parcels, basically?
We'd do a phase 1, and if the phase 1 showed anything that we needed to look at in a phase 2, we'd do a phase 2. Yes, on everything that's basically in the white and area around the the bright green area and the gray area.
On both sides of the road.
On both sides of the road. The approximately 200 acres.
So the 200 acres would consist of everything that's numbered there and all of the green area?
Yeah, if you follow the white boundary around, it kind of bleeds from bright green into pale green. You follow the white boundary all around.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep on going down, go along Morgan Road, and then back up that white line right there.
Okay, so that entire area is the 242 acres.
About 200. It's about 223, I think.
How many owners involved? If you can tell, tell us.
2, 3 owners.
Okay.
Look, so as far as you know, the liability for the old chemical plant would not be, depending on this due diligence.
If we do it right, we would not be incurring any liability, and could actually be a benefit. We get credits for redevelopment of the brownfield site, so it could be an incentive for the right company to come in there and redevelop that property. And it would be a big benefit to the community because, one, we get to put higher tech clean industries in there because there will be sewer available. We will be downzoning the property to that. We had a community meeting a couple of months ago, and in excess of 90% of the people that showed up at that meeting were in support of this plan. I think out of the several responses we had, 5 or 6 people said they did not support the plan. I can't give you exact numbers because a lot of husband and wives work together on the survey we gave out, but we only had 5 surveys out of the approximate 40 that we got back that did not support the proposal.
So moving forward, the expenditure of funds for due diligence would be for what?
It would be for appraisals, updated appraisals, any survey work that's necessary, a wetlands delineation to determine exactly how much developable acreage we have, and phase ones and phase twos if necessary.
Okay. And the approximate cost and timeline to do this?
The cost would be probably in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $65,000, depending on how much we have to do. John, is that fairly accurate?
Phase one will dictate the phase two, but you're probably in the ballpark.
Okay. So, time frame would, be a matter of how fast we can get people out there because everybody's so busy right now. So I'm thinking 3, 4, 5 months.
And all three owners are interested in selling?
We do not know about the Asian group, but the other owners are interested in selling.
The jelly ball was gonna discharge into the marsh, wasn't it, the river?
It would have, yes.
It would have if it'd gone.
No, they're not going now.
I know, they're not going now, but it would have.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
They could come back. I mean, there's been rumblings about them coming back, and not anything since COVID, but there's still rumblings that they could potentially come back.
I've seen the odor produced. I've smelled it, not seen it. I've smelled the odor produced by that. It's not, yeah.
In addition to the community approving this presentation that we made to them, we first presented to the Dale Community Preservation Group, and they approved of it also.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then also I've talked to, just so you know, Southern Carolina Alliance. They have a grant application pending at the state right now for $2.5 million to help out with infrastructure should we purchase this property. And there are some utility companies that would be interested in participating in helping us purchase the property as well.
Councilman Glover has a question.
Ms. Greenway, is one of the three potential owners is not the Asian group? They're not one of the three?
Current owners.
They are one of the three, yes.
Well, okay, they are, okay.
So it's the Asian group, and I'm not sure this is the right thing, but Tully Trask is the other owner, and then Mitchell Brothers would be the third.
Right, so 2 out of the 3 is interested in selling. Yeah, okay, that's great. Now, at what point in time is the Economic Development Company involved in this? I mean, how are they involved in this at this time?
Well, they played a role. I'm not sure, they played a role in developing this plan and laying it out with us and helped me answer questions about it. They've done some presentations about it, you all. I don't think this is their highest priority area for a marketing standpoint, but you're 7.5 miles from I-95 and you're, about an hour and 15 minutes into Charleston, located on 4-lane roads.
Well, no, the site is an ideal site. I'm just wondering whether our Economic Development Board is involved in this.
Well, they can't really do anything till we own the property.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean, the board won't play a role in it until we acquire the property. The director of the EDC, Mr. O'Toole's, been involved in the discussion on this plan and been involved in the planning.
Right.
Not in every meeting and not with every regard, not in regards to every detail of it, but they have been involved. He has been involved.
I guess I'm asking a question because it's a very selfish question for me. If to move projects along, should I go to you or should I go to John O'Toole for my district?
If you then I would answer that question as either. Mr. O'Toole and I have a great working relationship.
Which one I get the action out of? I need somebody to get the action.
You'll get action out of both of us. If you come to me, then I'll talk to him. If you go to him, he'll come and talk to me. So you'll get action. So it's just a matter of who you prefer to go to. I mean, you and I have had some discussions, and you know, I'll be doing all the groundwork on that for you with Mr. O'Toole.
I had one more question, and then I'll open it back up again. Do you know how many acres, or maybe John O'Toole will know, are left at the Beaufort Industrial Park for development?
Commerce Park.
Commerce Park, not Industrial Park, Commerce Park. That can be developed, it's not wetlands or something else.
There are 192 total. We have a 64,000 square foot building under, well, it's completed. We have 32 of that actually going to lease, which the company is then going to want to build 220,000 square feet in addition to their lease. So we probably are limited. I was asked by the Chamber of Commerce Thursday how quickly I thought that was going to go. Mm-hmm. Conservatively, I would say 5 years it might take. I think realistically, with the excitement we're getting out there right now, it might be off the market in 2. And it's also, the caveat to that is that any project we bring in there, we run by the Marine Corps, because some of it is in the ACU zone, and we want to make sure we want to be in concert with their mission there. And so, like, we'll have a fiberglass company that can't go there because of their resins are especially volatile. So I think it's somewhere 2-3.5 years we'll be out of product at the Commerce Park. So I do think we have to take a quick look at the product plan that you have before you. That includes this and other sites through the county.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Anyone online? Mr. Rodman?
Yeah, a couple things. A lot of times people will strike a deal and make it subject to due diligence. And it seems to me we're doing the opposite, is that we're doing due diligence and then going to decide what we want to do. And in doing that, do we create value for the sellers that we would not, that would otherwise we could buy at a lower price? Am I missing something in that sequence of how to go about these things?
We will do it either way you all would like for us to do it. I was trying to follow the model that we use for purchase of rural and critical lands, even though this isn't a rural and critical lands, where we go out and do the due diligence so that you all know that you're investing money in a clean site. But we can structure the deal with any way you all prefer we do it.
Well, I trust your judgment, however you want to do it. It does seem to have something to think about. Also, if we have one of the 3 landowners that may not be willing to sell, it seems to me that can be problematic also in terms of developing the whole site. Are they in the middle of it or at one extreme of these properties? Where do they fall in?
Well, I don't know if we know who to talk to with that particular group. And Mr. O'Toole's been more at the forefront of that than I have. We've been communicating with someone with the Asian group, but we don't know that person that is representing or says he's representing the Asian group actually has the authority to represent the Asian group.
Okay.
That's why I leave that open.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously if any of these 3 parts don't fall into place, then we can't do the deal, and we just have to leave it the way it is and hope for the best down the road.
If we did nothing, what do you think would happen to this property?
Eventually somebody's going to come along and want to put an industrial user there.
A dirty use, so it's in our best interest to...
Either they're going to request that we extend the sewer line over there, okay, and we'll fight that battle, or they'll put an industrial facility on the property that they can operate without sewer, which I don't think would be a high employer or a high-end employer.
Okay. And lastly, on the water and sewer, I think what you're saying is that Beaufort Jasper would run the line, but it would be exclusive to this particular property.
That's correct. The sewer line.
The water's already there. I understand. it would seem like with our concern about septic systems and so on, that building on that line would make some sense. I don't know that I'm missing the point of why we would want to limit the use and pay for a line that might be beneficial in the future for development.
Well, because the comprehensive plan and what drives your density and creates some urban sprawl, suburban sprawl, if you will, is the location of sewer in an area. So once you start allowing that line to be tapped or extended, then you're going to lose control of the growth out there, because that's where the cheapest land is. There's a lot of infrastructure in that road, and you're going to drive the pressure for density to go too far out. And I would not support that, you know, putting on my planning hat, which I am still prone to do after doing it for so long. I would not recommend that to you all, that we allow that to occur.
Okay. Good. Well, as I say, however, whichever way you want to go, Plan A or Plan B, I'm comfortable with whichever one you think makes
the water
the most
line
sense.
is what you need use on. Otherwise, you have to flush the line out on the ground and dump waters out on the ground.
Yeah.
Sewer line, you don't necessarily need a lot of use on that. And you know, if we play our cards right, then we'll have enough economic development here to make that more than pay for itself.
And who pays for the due diligence? What fund does that come out of?
We would pay for that out of general fund.
And would we tend to get reimbursed as development takes place?
As technically as we sell the property and develop them. But with the other partners that we're going to have involved, and with what the Southern Carolina Alliance is doing with the grant, that will give us some money to do some of the due diligence as well, particularly the phase 1s and the phase 2.
Good. Okay.
So this committee, this is within your dollar limit, correct?
That's what I'm being told.
Okay.
But I would like for you.
Would you like a vote
I would
from the
like
committee?
I would like a head nod that you all think that this is a reasonable plan. And before I go out and expend those funds, even though I do it, I would not want to do that. And you all say, well, you know, why did you do that? There was no way we were going to support pursuing this.
Councilman Dawson, would you like to make a motion that we can, based on our recommendation, we can vote on?
Yeah, I would move that we authorize the county administrator to do the due diligence on the Lubico site.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Rodman, second.
Get used to it.
Any discussion? See none? Without objection, we will go forward with the due diligence delineation of wetlands. Thank you
all
for the
very
open
much.
discussion. That's beneficial. Transparency to the public. All right, any other business? I would like to mention, there's been a lot of email traffic regarding Airbnbs. I know the planning department and zoning and the sheriff's department are working on enforcement, and I wanted to commend them for that. It's not just a problem in unincorporated areas, it's also in the incorporated areas. So everyone, as we become a more popular place to come visit, it's going to continue. All right, with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.